The bullet grazed his shoulder as Jack shielded her with his body blood seeping through his security uniform. "I'm just the gatekeeper," he whispered, their eyes meeting. Catherine Maxwell's trembling hand touched his face, the first time a woman had in 7 years. Dawn breaks over a city still half asleep. In a sparse apartment on the east side of Boston, Jack Foster opens his eyes before the alarm sounds. 45 years have carved lines around his eyes that speak of burdens carried too long alone. The room contains little beyond necessity: a bed, a dresser, a single framed photograph of a young girl with his eyes. No other personal touches soften the walls. No evidence of a life beyond survival. He moves with mechanical precision. Coffee brewed black and strong. 50 push-ups on the worn carpet. Shower exactly 3 minutes. The routine hasn't varied in 3 years. The mirror reflects a face weathered beyond its years' stubble, peppered with gray eyes that have seen too much and expected too little in return. His body bears the quiet testimony of his former life, a jagged scar across his rib cage, another on his left thigh. Souvenirs from the deserts of Iraq and mountains of Afghanistan, where he served as a Navy SEAL until 2012. In the small bedroom adjacent to his, Jack lays out clothes for his daughter Emma, now 12. She hasn't spoken more than necessary since her mother's car accident, an accident Jack wasn't there to prevent because he was working an extra security shift. The guilt wraps around his chest each morning, as familiar as breathing. "Math test today?" he asks as they drive to school in his aging sedan. Emma nods, eyes fixed on the passing scenery, fingers fidgeting with the strap of her backpack. The sketchbook she carries everywhere peeks out from the half-zipped opening. "Your art teacher says you're doing great work." So, a shrug, not dismissive, just contained. Everything about Emma is contained these days, as if she's made herself smaller since Sarah died, taking up less space, requiring less attention. Jack watches her walk away, backpack slung over one shoulder, her posture carrying a weight no child should bear. They are two survivors, shipwrecked on the same island, unable to build a bridge between them. At the exclusive Oak Ridge Estate community, Jack slides into his security booth at the main gate. His colleagues see him as reliable but reserved, the ex-SEAL who never shares war stories, the widower who works double shifts without complaint. He has become part of the landscape, as overlooked as the cameras he monitors. Through his windowed booth, Jack observes the residents in their luxury vehicles. Lawyers, executives, surgeons, people whose lives remain uninterrupted by tragedy. He checks IDs, opens gates, monitors, security feeds. His presence acknowledged with the briefest of nods, if acknowledged at all. As dusk falls, he notices an unfamiliar black SUV idling just beyond the gate's sensor range. The driver's face is obscured, but something about the car's positioning triggers the instincts Jack has suppressed for years. He makes a note in the log, but dismisses the unease. These days, he expects nothing good or bad. What Jack doesn't realize is that tomorrow this invisible man's life will collide with forces he spent years avoiding, awakening parts of himself he thought had died alongside his wife. In his apartment that night, Jack sits at the kitchen table after Emma has gone to bed. A half-empty glass of bourbon catches the dim light. He seldom drinks, but tonight memories press too close. He opens an old photo album, its spine cracked from disuse. Sarah smiles up at him from the pages, her auburn hair catching sunlight, her hand resting on a much younger Emma's shoulder. Behind them, a cabin on a lake, their special place before. Jack remembers the scent of pine, the sound of Emma's laughter echoing across the water as she jumped from the dock, and Sarah calling out half-hearted warnings with pride in her voice. Jack closes the album before reaching the empty pages, the ones that should have held the life they'd planned together. He finishes his drink and moves to check on Emma, finding her asleep with her sketchbook fallen open beside her. A drawing of a woman with her back turned, auburn hair, falling past her shoulders, standing at the edge of a lake. Jack gently closes the book and places it on her nightstand. "I'm sorry," he whispers to the darkness. "I should have been there." The words fall into the silence, unanswered as always. Rain lashes against the security booth as Jack works the night shift, a replacement for a sick colleague. The storm has knocked out power to sections of the estate, including the main gate's automatic mechanism. Jack manually checks vehicles standing in the downpour, uniforms soaked through. The radio in his booth crackles with weather updates, the announcer's voice occasionally interrupted by static. Looking at heavy rainfall continuing through the night, folks. Here's Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water, to get you through this stormy evening. The melody fills the small space, stirring memories of his mother humming this tune in their kitchen decades ago. Jack adjusts the volume down, not needing another avenue to the past tonight. A silver Audi pulls up, windshield wipers fighting the deluge. The woman inside lowers her window just enough to hand over an ID card. Catherine Maxwell, she says, her voice carrying a subtle authority that suggests she's unused to being questioned. Jack doesn't recognize the name, not a regular resident. The ID shows her as the wife of William Maxwell, owner of the mansion on Lakeside Drive that has sat largely empty since Jack began working here. "I'll need to call this in, ma'am," Jack says, noticing her tense grip on the steering wheel, the nervous glance toward her rearview mirror. "Please just open the gate," she insists, her composed facade cracking slightly. "My husband is expecting me." Protocol dictates verification for unfamiliar visitors. But something in her eyes, a controlled fear, makes Jack hesitate. Before he can decide, headlights flood his peripheral vision as the black SUV he'd noticed yesterday speeds toward the gate. "Let me through now," Catherine says with quiet urgency. Jack's dormant instincts flare. He presses the manual override. The gate begins to swing open and he motions for her to proceed. As her car passes, the SUV accelerates, attempting to slip through behind her. Without thinking, Jack steps into the gap, blocking the vehicle's path with his body. The car screeches to a halt, inches from his legs. Two men emerge. Expensive suits, hard eyes. Professional, dangerous. "Estate policy," Jack states flatly. "One vehicle per authorization." "We're with Mrs. Maxwell," the driver says, his tone suggesting this is a formality easily dismissed. "Then you'll need her to confirm that." The men exchange glances. "Listen, rent-a-cop, move aside. Ishal." "You can wait for proper clearance to your leave," Jack interrupts, his voice carrying the quiet authority that once commanded men in combat zones. His hand rests near the taser at his belt, a gesture not lost on the men. After a tense standoff, they retreat to their vehicle, backing away, but remaining parked outside the gate. Jack calls it in to the estate's security office, then returns to his booth, shaking off rain and adrenaline. An hour later, the mansion on Lakeside Drive lights up like a beacon in the storm. Jack's radio crackles with an emergency call. Possible intruder at the Maxwell residence. He arrives to find the front door ajar, a window shattered. Drawing his taser, Jack enters, calling out his presence. He finds Catherine Maxwell in the study, a phone to her ear, her other hand pressing a cloth to a cut on her forehead. She ends her call abruptly when she sees him. "Security, Ori," he identifies himself. "Are you hurt?" "They broke in through the terrace," she explains, maintaining her composure despite the circumstances. "I managed to trigger the alarm and they fled." Jack secures the house before returning to her. "The police are on their way." He gestures to her injury. "May I?" She allows him to examine the cut. It's superficial. He assesses, retrieving a first aid kit from a bathroom. As he cleans the wound, he notices fine tremors in her hands, the only outward sign of her fear. "You're good at this," she observes. "Seal," he explains simply. "And now you guard gates." Something in her tone isn't condescension, but genuine curiosity. Jack doesn't elaborate. The police arrive, take statements. The official story becomes that it was an attempted burglary, but Jack recognizes the precision of the break-in, the disabled specific camera, the clean glass cut. This was professional. And as the officers prepare to leave, Catherine pulls Jack aside. "Those men at the gate, they weren't with me." "I know," he says simply. "Your eyes." "What about my eyes?" "You're afraid." Something shifts in her expression. Recognition that he sees beyond her carefully maintained facade. "My husband is away on business often. I don't normally come here alone." "Then why tonight?" She considers him for a moment. "Sometimes we need somewhere to breathe." The statement hangs between them, loaded with unspoken meaning. The police suggest she not stay alone. Catherine makes a call, apparently to her husband, her tone shifting to something more guarded, more performative. After ending the call, she turns to Jack. "He's sending someone, but they won't arrive until morning." She hesitates. "Would you, with the estate's security, consider having someone remain until then?" Protocol would have Jack call in a replacement so he could return to his post, but instead he radios that he'll stay on site. He notices her relief, subtle but genuine. As the night deepens, they maintain a professional distance. Catherine working on her laptop in the living room, Jack patrolling the perimeter. But occasionally their paths cross, and in those moments, something unspoken passes between them. Two people recognizing something familiar in each other's solitude. Days pass, Jack returns to his routine, but something has shifted. He finds himself watching for Catherine's car, noting the days she comes to the estate and the days she doesn't. He tells himself it's professional concern. The break-in remains unsolved. The men in the SUV unidentified. Emma notices the change. "You seem different," she says one morning. The most words she's strung together in weeks. "Different how?" Jack asks, surprised. She shrugs, retreating back into silence, but her observation lingers with him throughout his shift. At the Maxwell Mansion, security upgrades are underway. A response to the break-in, Jack is assigned to oversee the installation, bringing him back into Catherine's orbit. He learns she's 40, educated at Yale, works as a corporate attorney despite her husband's wealth. She carries herself with a practiced perfection that Jack recognizes as armor. On the third day of installations, Jack arrives to find Catherine in the garden barefoot, in jeans and a simple blouse, a stark contrast to her usual polished appearance. She's attempting to revive a neglected rose garden, her hands' dirty hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "My mother planted these," she explains when she notices him watching, "before my father sold the property to William." Jack kneels beside her, examines a withered plant. "This one might be beyond saving." "I refuse to accept that," she says with quiet determination. "Sometimes things just need time and the right kind of attention." Their eyes meet briefly, and Jack feels something crack in his carefully maintained attachment. He offers to help, and they work side by side, hands in the soil, conversation flowing more easily in this shared task than it had across polished desks and security reports. Catherine asks about Emma, and Jack finds himself sharing more than he intended. The silence that fell between them after Sarah's death. His fear that he's failing as a father. Catherine doesn't offer empty reassurances. Instead, she listens with a presence that makes Jack feel truly seen for the first time in years. In turn, she reveals fragments of her own life. Her marriage to William Maxwell, 22 years her senior, powerful in business and politics. "He was my mentor first," she explains. "He saw potential in me that others missed." But there's something in her tone that suggests the relationship has shifted from what it once was. "They lost a baby 3 years ago, a stillbirth. After that, something changed between us. He buried himself in work, and I became very good at pretending everything was fine." Their conversations continue over the following weeks. Jack breaks protocol, bringing coffee from the shop outside the estate rather than the security office's stale brew. Catherine shares books from the mansion's library, volumes on gardening, yes, but also poetry that speaks to grief and renewal. One evening, Jack receives an urgent call from Emma's school. She's had a panic attack, her first in months. He finds her in the nurse's office, pale and withdrawn. As he drives her home, his phone buzzes with a text from Catherine. A question about the new security cameras. He doesn't respond. That night, as Emma finally sleeps, Jack sits at their small kitchen table, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down. His phone buzzes again. Catherine checking if everything is all right. In a moment of weakness, he calls her. "Emma had a rough day," he explains, surprising himself with his openness. "Do you want to talk about it?" Catherine asks, her voice gentle. Jack finds himself sharing his deepest fear, that Emma's silence isn't just grief, but blame. "The night of the accident, I was supposed to pick Sarah up, but there was an incident at work, and I asked her to drive herself. If I had just been there," "Jack," Catherine says softly, "we can't protect everyone we love every moment, no matter how much we want to." Something in her voice suggests personal knowledge of this truth. "After we lost the baby," she continues hesitantly, "I kept thinking if I had noticed something was wrong earlier, if I had gone to the hospital sooner." This shared understanding of loss creates a bridge between them. They begin meeting outside the estate. Innocent encounters at first, coffee at a shop halfway between their worlds. A farmer's market where Jack brings Emma, who seems marginally more animated in Catherine's gentle presence. Jack notices the gradual awakening in himself, the way colors seem sharper, how he finds himself noticing the changing leaves, the way Emma's rare smiles feel like unexpected gifts rather than painful reminders of what they've lost. But as they grow closer, Jack also becomes aware of shadows emerging. The black SUV appearing with increasing frequency, a sense of being watched during his shifts. He keeps this concern from Catherine, not wanting to disturb the fragile peace she seems to have found in their friendship. On a crisp autumn morning, Jack and Catherine sit in a corner booth of a small cafe downtown far from Oak Ridge Estate. Emma is at a weekend art program when she actually asked to attend a small victory that Jack is quietly celebrating. "You look different," Catherine observes, studying him over her cup. Jack shifts, uncomfortable with the attention. "Just got a haircut." "It's not that," she smiles. "You stood straighter when you walked in. Your eyes notice things, the exit, the man with the newspaper who's been here too long, the couple arguing in the corner. You're awake again." Jack doesn't respond immediately. She's right. Something has reawakened in him. Instincts long dormant, awareness, purpose. "Is that good or bad?" he finally asks. "It depends," she says, her smile fading, "on what you do with it." The cafe's sound system switches songs, and a familiar melody fills the space. Simon and Garfunkel's The Sound of Silence, the original 1964 version. Catherine's expression softens. "My father used to play this," she says. "His whole record collection was from before I was born. He said modern music had lost its soul." Jack nods, remembering his own youth. "My mom loved this song." They sit in comfortable silence, letting the music speak for them. When Jack walks Catherine to her car afterward, their hands brush accidentally. Neither acknowledges it, but neither pulls away until they reach the parking lot. That afternoon, as Jack picks Emma up from her art program, he notices a black SUV parked across the street. The same one from the estate, he's certain. His body tenses, old training returning like muscle memory. He positions himself between the vehicle and Emma as they walk to his car, keeping his movements casual, but his awareness heightened. The SUV doesn't follow them, but Jack takes a circuitous route home anyway, his mind racing with possibilities, none of them comforting. At their apartment, Emma surprises him by showing him her latest drawing, a garden with roses coming back to life, a woman's figure tending to them. The woman's face isn't visible, but the elegant curve of her neck, the careful way she bends toward the flowers, Jack recognizes Catherine in every line. "It's beautiful," he tells Emma, his throat tight with emotion, not just at the subject, but at the gift of her sharing it willingly. Emma looks up at him, her eyes serious. "She makes you less sad." The simple observation stuns Jack. Has he been so transparent, or has Emma in her silence become more observant than he realized? "I'm sorry I've been so," he manages. Emma shakes her head. "Mom would want you to be happy." Before Jack can respond, she walks to her room, leaving him with the drawing and words that open a floodgate of emotions he's kept carefully dammed. Later that night, after checking that Emma is asleep, Jack pulls out his laptop, not the family one they use for Emma's homework, but an older model stored in a locked case under his bed. He hasn't opened it in years, not since transitioning to civilian life. The password comes to him from muscle memory, despite the time passed. He begins with public records. William Maxwell, former Deputy Secretary of Defense under the previous administration. Now CEO of Maxwell Global Strategies, a consultancy firm specializing in international security solutions. On the surface, the man is a pillar of success and respectability. But Jack knows from experience that power casts shadows, and in those shadows, secrets thrive. He digs deeper, using skills he'd hoped never to need again. Maxwell's first wife died in a yachting accident off the coast of Malta in 2008. Ruled accidental, but the investigating officer was promoted shortly after the case closed. 3 of Maxwell's business rivals suffered abrupt downfalls following rumors of financial impropriety or personal scandals. The patterns emerged slowly but unmistakably. Jack's phone buzzes with a text from Catherine. "Need to talk." Not at the house, she suggests a hiking trail outside town far from surveillance cameras and listening devices. The precaution speaks volumes. The next morning, Jack arranges for Emma to spend the day with a school friend, a rare social engagement she's actually looking forward to. He drives to the state park, parking his car in the main lot before hiking up to the viewpoint Catherine suggested. She's already there when he arrives, looking out over the valley below. The autumn foliage creates a tapestry of red and gold beneath a clear blue sky. She turns at the sound of his approach, relief visible in her expression. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she says. "You said you needed to talk." Catherine nods, then looks around carefully before stepping closer. "William called this morning. He's returning tomorrow, not next week as planned." She takes a deep breath. He's never changed his schedule like this before. Do you think he knows about us? Jack asks the question, escaping before he can consider its implications. There is no us in any way that would threaten William Maxwell. They haven't done anything wrong. Catherine looks at him, a sad smile touching her lips. There is no us in any way that would threaten him, Jack. We haven't done anything wrong. She echoes his thoughts exactly, which only increases his unease. But you're afraid of him anyway. She doesn't deny it. Instead, she reveals the true nature of her marriage. How William's mentorship evolved into control. How his support came with invisible strings. How his jealousy masqueraded as protection. After we lost the baby, I wanted to leave. Her voice drops. He made it clear that wasn't an option. How direct, Jack asked, the protective instinct he'd suppressed for years flaring hot and immediate. Not directly. William never threatens. He demonstrates. She looks out over the valley below. His former assistant filed for divorce against her husband's wishes. Suddenly, her husband got custody of their children based on evidence that appeared out of nowhere. Catherine, William doesn't just have money, Jack. He has information connections in places that should be beyond influence. Jack shares his own findings, watching Catherine's expression shift from fear to resigned confirmation. I've suspected much of this, she admits, but hearing it confirmed. She takes a deep breath. I need to leave him, Jack. I've been planning it for months, gathering evidence of his dealings, creating an insurance policy. The break-in at the mansion, Jack realizes, they weren't there for you. They were looking for whatever you've collected. Catherine nods. The night I came to the estate, I discovered William was having me followed. I needed to retrieve something from the safe, something that could protect me if I ever managed to leave. And did you get what you needed? Yes. Her hand touches her jacket pocket unconsciously. But it's not enough yet. There's more at his office. Files that would expose not just his business practices, but his connections to people who should never have power. Jack knows he should walk away. His duty is to Emma, to rebuilding their fractured life, not to diving back into dangerous waters. But looking at Catherine, her intelligence and courage, her refusal to remain a prisoner to fear, awakens something in him that has been dormant since Sarah's death. Tell me what you need, he says simply. The plan forms quickly. Catherine will maintain normalcy when William returns, while Jack will use his security clearance and revive skills to access William's office building during a charity gala 2 nights later. As twilight descends, they stand to leave their breath visible in the cooling air. Catherine hesitates, then reaches for Jack's hand. I'm sorry to pull you into this. You have Emma to think about. I am thinking about her, Jack replies. I want her to see that there are still things worth fighting for, people worth protecting. The words surprise him. They feel like something the man he used to be would say, not the hollow shell he's become. Their fingers remain intertwined for a moment longer than necessary. No kiss, no dramatic declaration, just a simple, profound contact of two people recognizing something in each other worth the risk of awakening. On the drive home, Jack's mind whirs with preparations. Equipment to gather, contingencies to plan, security systems to navigate. He's so focused that he almost misses the black SUV in his rearview mirror, keeping a careful distance behind him. Almost. Jack makes a sudden turn, then another, confirming his suspicion. He's being followed. The question is, by whom? William's people, or someone else entirely? And how long has this been happening? The realization sends a chill through him. If they're watching him, they might be watching Emma too. The thought turns his blood cold. Instead of heading home, Jack drives to the school where Emma's friend lives, calling ahead to explain he'll be early. He collects his daughter, hyper-aware of their surroundings, and takes a convoluted route to their apartment, eventually losing the tail in a mall parking garage. That night, he checks the locks 3 times, positions a chair under the doorknob, an old habit from deployments in hostile territory, and sleeps on the couch, his body between the door and Emma's room. In the morning, Jack makes a decision. He calls Marcus Rodriguez, the only person from his former life he still trusts, now a private investigator specializing in cases the police won't touch. Foster, Marcus's voice carries the weight of the shared history. Been a while. I need your help, Jack says, no preamble necessary between them. They meet at a diner far from Jack's usual haunts. Marcus looks older, but no less formidable, the same watchful eyes, the same economical movements of a man trained to be lethal. You're in trouble, Marcus observes after studying Jack's face. Not yet, Jack replies, but I might be soon. He explains the situation in broad strokes, leaving out names but providing enough detail for Marcus to understand the stakes. You're playing with fire, Marcus warns. Men like that don't lose. I need you to watch Emma tonight, Jack explains. Don't answer the door. Don't let her near windows. Marcus studies his friend's face. You're back in, aren't you? Whatever it is. Jack doesn't confirm or deny, just hands over a sealed envelope. If I'm not back by morning, this goes to FBI field office. Agent Teresa Ramirez, no one else. Marcus takes the envelope without looking at it. And the girl? Take her to Sarah's mother in Providence. The address is inside. You're risking everything for this woman. It's not a question. Jack meets his friend's gaze steadily. I'm risking everything for the truth, for what's right. Marcus nods, a soldier recognizing a mission worth the sacrifice. Then make it count. That evening, as Catherine and William attend the charity gala, Jack prepares. He dresses in black tactical clothing, not military gear, nothing that would appear out of place on a security professional working late. He checks his equipment, lockpicks a signal jammer, a small device to loop security camera feeds, a flash drive with advanced encryption. Emma watches him with solemn eyes as he packs a small bag for her overnight stay with Marcus. Is this about the lady from the garden? She asks suddenly. Jack stops, caught off guard by her perception. Partly, he admits, but it's also about doing the right thing. Emma considers this, then reaches into her backpack and pulls out a folded piece of paper, a drawing. She hands it to Jack without explanation. He unfolds it to find a portrait of himself, not as he is now, but as he was years ago, standing tall in uniform, eyes clear and determined. Beside the figure is a simple phrase in Emma's careful handwriting, "Be brave, Dad." Jack's throat tightens. When did you draw this? Last night, Emma says. I remembered the pictures Mom kept from before. Jack pulls his daughter into a tight embrace, inhaling the scent of her hair, feeling her small arms wrap around his waist. For the first time in years that he feels whole, father and soldier protector and seeker of justice, all parts of the same man. I'll be back tomorrow, he promises, and we'll talk, really talk. Emma nods against his chest. I know. As dusk falls, Jack leaves Emma with Marcus and sets his plan in motion. The night ahead will either begin his redemption or complete his downfall. Either way, the man at the gate has stepped out of the shadows, ready to confront whatever waits beyond. The Maxwell Global Strategies building towers above downtown Boston, its glass facade reflecting the night sky like dark water. Jack Foster approaches from the service entrance, his gait casual, confident, a man who belongs. His security uniform, identical to those worn by the building's night staff, provides the perfect cover. In his pocket, a stolen ID badge cloned from Catherine's intelligence on staff rotations. Jack nods to a janitor pushing a cleaning cart. The man barely glances up. Invisibility, the gift of the service class that Jack has learned to exploit since leaving the military. The privileged rarely look at those who maintain their world. The security desk is manned by a single guard and eyes half fixed on a monitor showing a basketball game. Jack times his approach during a crucial play, sliding his counterfeit badge across the scanner. The light blinks green as the guard's attention remains on the screen. Working late, the guard asks, not looking up. New system installation on 25 turn. Jack replies, the floor number pulled from Catherine's detailed notes. The guard nods absently. Take the service elevator. Main ones are shut down for maintenance. Jack's pulse remains steady, his breathing controlled. This is familiar terrain. The calculated risk, the meticulous planning, the improvisational adjustment. His body remembers what his mind has tried to forget. The service elevator requires another badge scan. As the doors close, Jack retrieves a small device from his pocket and attaches it to the control panel. The elevator camera flickers briefly now, showing an empty car ascending a looped feed that will buy him precious minutes. 25th floor, executive level. Home to William Maxwell's private office and the secrets Jack has come to uncover. The doors open to darkness, broken only by emergency exit signs and the distant glow of the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. Jack moves silently down the corridor, remembering Catherine's detailed description. Third door on the right, biometric scanner disguised as a thermostat, secondary keypad hidden behind the abstract painting. He pauses at the door, placing a thin device over the fingerprint scanner. The screen flickers through patterns before settling on a match William Maxwell's print lifted from a whiskey glass at his home by Catherine days earlier. The lock disengages with a soft click. Inside the office speaks of power and calculated image. African mahogany desk, custom leather chairs, a wall of photographs showing Maxwell with two former presidents, military generals, foreign dignitaries. A man curating his legacy through strategic associations. Jack works methodically using the specialized tools of his former trade. The painting slides aside to reveal the keypad Catherine described. He attaches another device that cycles through combinations until finding the correct sequence. A panel in the wall slides open, revealing a safe. This final barrier requires both Maxwell's fingerprint and a 6-digit code. Jack uses the print spoofer again. While entering the code, Catherine provided the date of Maxwell's first wife's death, a macabre password revealing Maxwell's psychological blind spots. Men like him believe themselves untouchable, their arrogance creating vulnerabilities. The safe opens to reveal folders, a laptop, several external hard drives, and a metal case. Jack photographs everything before touching it, establishing the original order. Then he begins examining the contents, starting with the folders labeled Cerberus. Inside are documents detailing weapons sales to sanctioned countries through shell companies, bank transfers through obscure channels, communications with officials whose names Jack recognizes from intelligence briefings years ago. It's more damning than he expected evidence of corruption at levels that make his stomach turn. He inserts a flash drive into the laptop, running a program that copies the encrypted files while leaving no digital footprint. As the data transfers, Jack continues through the documents, photographing key pages with a specialized camera. In the bottom drawer, a manila folder catches his attention, unmarked unlike the others. He opens it and freezes. Photographs of himself. Jack with Emma to her school, Jack at Sarah's grave, Jack and Catherine at the cafe, but also older images Jack in uniform in Afghanistan. Jack receiving a commendation that was never made public. Jack with his SEAL team during Operation Eagle Shield, a classified mission that officially never happened. Behind these medical reports from his military discharge, psychological evaluations, surveillance notes tracking his movements for months, predating his first meeting with Catherine by nearly a year. Jack's blood runs cold as he reaches the final document, the police report of Sarah's car accident. But attached to it, a separate report never filed officially. Mechanical analysis showing the brake lines were cut, targeted elimination, not an accident, a handwritten note in the margin, liability neutralized, asset status monitoring phase. The realization hits with sickening clarity. His wife's death was no accident. And his entire post-military life, the security job at Oak Ridge, his position at the gate has been orchestrated. But why? What possible value could he have to William Maxwell? The sound of the elevator activating jolts Jack back to the present danger. He quickly returns the documents to their original positions, removes the flash drive, and closes the safe. No one should be coming to this floor at this hour. The gala isn't scheduled to end for another 2 hours. Jack moves silently to the door, listening. The elevator arrives with a soft chime. Footsteps, a single person moving with purpose. Jack recognizes the cadence immediately. William Maxwell. The man himself, not at the charity event where he should be. There's no time to reach the service elevator without being seen. Jack slips behind a massive decorative screen in the corner of the office, a Chinese antique that provides the only available concealment. Through a small gap, he watches as Maxwell enters, moving directly to the safe without turning on the main lights. Maxwell's movements are precise, unhurried. He retrieves a single folder from the safe, then makes a call. "It's me," he says, his voice cultured, controlled. "Our source confirms she made contact with Foster. Yes, exactly as predicted." A pause. "No, I'm handling this personally. The operation is too delicate for delegation." Another pause. "Have the team ready. Tonight we determine if he's salvageable or needs to be processed like the wife." Jack's hand moves instinctively to where his service weapon would have been years ago. The naked vulnerability of being unarmed in the presence of such calculated menace sends ice through his veins. Maxwell ends the call and returns the folder to the safe, then leaves as deliberately as he arrived. Only when the elevator doors close does Jack release the breath he's been holding. His mind races through implications, recalculating his understanding of everything that's happened. Catherine's appearance in his life, was no coincidence. But was she working with Maxwell or against him? Was her fear genuine or performance? The evidence in the safe was real, but what was her true agenda in having him retrieve it? Jack has only minutes to escape before security systems reset or Maxwell returns. He makes his way to the service elevator, hyper-aware of every sound, every shadow. The weight of the flash drive in his pocket feels simultaneously like salvation and damnation. Outside, the November air hits his face with bracing clarity. Jack walks 2 blocks at a measured pace before allowing himself to look back. No obvious tail, but that means nothing with professionals. He takes a circuitous route to where he parked his car using every counter-surveillance technique from his military days. Only when he's driving, putting distance between himself and the Maxwell building, does Jack allow the full emotional impact to register. Sarah's death wasn't random tragedy, but targeted assassination. His grief Emma's trauma collateral damage in some game he doesn't yet understand. The rage builds slowly, a controlled burn that clears his mind rather than clouding it. Jack Foster has been a pawn, but pawns can become the most dangerous pieces on the board when they reach the other side. And he's almost there. Marcus Rodriguez's apartment is in a neglected building in Dorchester, the kind of place people look away from instinctively. Perfect for a man who values privacy. Jack uses the prearranged knock 321 pause 2. The door opens to reveal Marcus' expression unchanged from earlier, but posture alert. Inside the apartment contradicts its exterior, clean organized with top-grade security, visible only to trained eyes. Emma sleeps on the couch, a blanket tucked around her shoulders. She's been out for about an hour, Marcus says quietly. Kid knows how to draw. Did these while waiting for dinner. He gestures to several sketches on the table, birds in flight, Marcus's weathered face captured with surprising accuracy, a woman's silhouette that could be Sarah or Catherine or both. Any problems? Jack asks, his eyes scanning the room out of habit. Quiet night. Marcus studies his friend's face. You found something. It's not a question. Jack nods, removing the flash drive from his pocket. Need to use your setup. Marcus leads him to a small room off the kitchen. Inside, a computer configuration far beyond a PI's typical needs, military-grade encryption satellite uplink capabilities, a setup designed for someone who operates in shadows deeper than legal gray areas. 10 minutes, Marcus says. Then you tell me what this is really about. Jack connects the drive, navigating through folders of documents, financial records, communications logs. The evidence against Maxwell is comprehensive, damning illegal arms sales, bribery of foreign officials, blackmail operations targeting political opponents. But interspersed throughout are references to Operation Black Flag, and the Foster asset mentions of Jack himself as part of some larger strategy. The pieces refuse to form a coherent picture until Jack opens a video file dated 3 years ago, almost to the day. The footage shows a secure room clinically lit. A woman sits at a metal table, her posture rigid despite her obvious exhaustion. Sarah. Jack's Sarah alive, being interrogated by a man whose face remains off camera. Mrs. Foster, the voice says, let's try again. What exactly did you discover about Operation Eagle Shield? Sarah's voice is steady despite her evident fear. That it wasn't a Taliban weapons cache. There were families in that compound. Children. The official report was falsified. And how did you come by this information? I'm a journalist. I protect my sources. A hand places photographs on the table, satellite images of the compound Jack's team had targeted in Afghanistan in 2010. The mission that had haunted him, the one that led to his eventual separation from service. Your husband led that operation, the voice continues. Did he tell you what happened there? Sarah's expression hardens. Jack followed orders based on intelligence provided by your agency. The intelligence was wrong, deliberately wrong. He lives with that guilt every day while the people who set it up hide behind classification and national security. Mrs. Foster, we're trying to determine if you've shared this information with anyone else. Am I under arrest? Because unless I am, this interview is over. The video cuts to static, then resumes, showing Sarah being escorted from the building. The timestamp indicates several hours have passed. The final frame captures her getting into her car, the same car that would be found wrapped around a tree less than 2 hours later. Jack sits motionless, the truth solidifying like concrete in his chest. Sarah had discovered something about his final mission, something worth killing for. And now, years later, the same people who orchestrated her death had arranged for Catherine Maxwell to enter his life. Jack, Marcus's voice pulls him back to the present. Who are these people? I don't know yet. Jack's voice sounds distant to his own ears. But William Maxwell is connected to them. And Catherine, he pauses, unable to complete the thought. The woman you're trying to help, the woman who might be using me. Just like they've been using me for years. Marcus sits across from him, his expression grave. What's your play? I need to know who Catherine really is, and I need to protect Emma. The envelope you gave me, insurance, evidence of what Maxwell's been doing along with my suspicions. Marcus nods. What do you need from me? A safe place for Emma until this is over, and a weapon. Marcus studies his friend's face, seeing the transformation from the defeated man who arrived earlier to the soldier now preparing for battle. You sure about this? Once you cross this line, they crossed it when they killed Sarah, Jack interrupts, when they turned my guilt and grief into tools to manipulate me. Marcus disappears into another room, returning with a duffel bag. Inside, a Glock 19, clean, untraceable, along with extra magazines and a shoulder holster. Low profile, Marcus advises, and Jack trusts no one, not even her. Jack nods, checking the weapon with hands that remember every movement despite the years away. Take Emma to her grandmother's tomorrow. Use the back roads, and don't tell me which ones. In the living room, Jack kneels beside the couch where Emma sleeps. Her face in repose shows the echo of Sarah that always catches in his chest. He brushes a strand of hair from her forehead, wondering if this moment might be the last peaceful one they'll share. I'll fix this, he whispers a promise to his daughter, to Sarah's memory to himself. I'll make it right. Emma stirs slightly, her eyes opening just enough to register his presence. Dad, I'm here, he says softly. Go back to sleep. Did you find what you needed? The question, innocent yet loaded, hangs between them. Jack manages a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Almost. I need to do one more thing. Emma's hand finds his small fingers wrapping around his calloused palm. Be careful. I will. He squeezes her hand gently. I love you, Emma. No matter what happens, remember that. She nods, eyes already closing again. Love you too, Dad. Jack stands the weight of what lies ahead, settling over him like armor, long unworn, but never forgotten. He nods once to Marcus, a silent communication between warriors, then steps out into the night, a man with nothing left to lose except the truth itself. The Maxwell estate sits dark and imposing against the pre-dawn sky. Jack approaches from the lakeside, avoiding the security perimeter he himself had helped design. He moves with the confidence of a man returning to his element, using the terrain to mask his approach timing, his movements between the sweeps of motion sensors. The glass doors leading to the terrace have been repaired since the break-in. Jack bypasses the alarm, using knowledge gained from the security installation, accessing the code box through a maintenance panel Catherine had pointed out during their time in the garden. Inside, the house feels wrong too, still too perfect. He moves silently through rooms he knows from both professional assessment and personal moments shared with Catherine. In the study, a light burns low, a single lamp on the massive desk illuminating a figure in a leather chair. William Maxwell crystal tumbler in hand, as if this intrusion were an appointed meeting. Mr. Foster, Maxwell says, his voice cultured, controlled. I was wondering when you'd arrive. He gestures to the chair opposite. Please sit. You've gone to considerable trouble to enter my home. The least I can offer is conversation. Jack remains standing, taking in details with tactical precision. Maxwell appears unarmed, but his relaxed demeanor suggests confidence, either in his own abilities or in backup nearby. Where is she? Jack asks, not bothering with pretense. Maxwell sips his drink. My wife is indisposed at the moment. Women so emotional when their illusions are shattered. He studies Jack with clinical interest. You know, your file doesn't do you justice. The psychological profile suggested you'd broken after your wife's death, that you'd lost your edge. Clearly, that assessment was premature. If you've hurt Catherine, Maxwell's laugh is genuine. You misunderstand the situation entirely, Mr. Foster. Catherine isn't a victim. She's an architect. He slides a folder across the desk. Inside are more photos, Jack and Sarah in happier years. Jack in uniform in combat zones. Surveillance reports of his military operations. Medical records from after his discharge. Your wife's death wasn't an accident, Maxwell says, watching Jack's face. The brake lines were cut, a technique familiar to someone with your background, though cruder than your usual work. The floor seems to shift beneath Jack's feet. What are you saying? That your guilt is misplaced. You didn't cause her death by asking her to drive that night. She was targeted because of who you are, what you were. Maxwell leans forward, or rather because of what someone wanted you to become. Catherine, Jack whispers, the betrayal burning through him. No, Maxwell corrects. The people Catherine works for. The same people who arranged for you to be hired at Oak Ridge Estate. The same people who have been watching you for years, waiting for you to be broken enough, isolated enough to be useful. Jack's mind races, reassessing every interaction, every seemingly chance encounter. She approached me deliberately. Of course she did. The grieving widower, the ex-military man with specialized skills gone to waste, the dedicated father who might do anything to protect his child. Maxwell's expression shifts to something almost like sympathy. You were perfectly positioned inside my security operation, but beneath notice. And you were vulnerable, precisely where Catherine excels, offering understanding, connection, hope. Maxwell stands, moves to the window. What you don't know, what they miscalculated, is that Catherine and I haven't been husband and wife in any real sense for years. Our marriage is a business arrangement, a political alliance. I've known about her other loyalties for some time. A door opens and Catherine enters. She looks unharmed but tense, her eyes meeting Jack's with an expression he can't read. Tell him, Maxwell instructs her, tell him who you really work for. Catherine's composure doesn't waver. A government division that doesn't officially exist. We've been building a case against William for years. International arms deals, election interference, judicial manipulation. And you needed me because, Jack asked, the sense of betrayal threatening to overwhelm him. Because you were already inside. Because your background made you valuable. She hesitates. Because your psychological profile indicated you would respond to her particular approach. Maxwell finishes for her. The devoted father, the man of principle, beaten down by circumstance, longing for purpose. He refills his glass. It's quite elegant, it's really. I almost admire the strategy. Jack looks between them, these sophisticated opponents playing a game he's only beginning to understand. The break in the surveillance, the note, all staged. Some, Catherine admits. Not all. The evidence in William's office real. Everything I told you about what he's done is true. What she omits, Maxwell interjects, is that her employers have done worse, all under the banner of national security. He turns to Catherine. Tell him about Operation Eagle Shield. Tell him who really authorized the strike that killed those children in Rahim province, the operation that prompted his resignation from service. Catherine's face pales. That's classified. Not to me, Maxwell says coldly. Nothing is. Jack's world narrows to a single devastating realization. He has been a pawn manipulated by both sides of a conflict he didn't know existed. The connection he thought he had found with Catherine, the sense of purpose, rekindled, all calculated to exploit his deepest vulnerabilities. And yet the look in Catherine's eyes contains something beyond calculation. The tremor in her voice when she speaks his name suggests a complication neither she nor her handlers anticipated. Jack, she says quietly, it's true that I was assigned to approach you, but what happened between us was a mission. Jack finishes, his voice flat. It started that way, she acknowledges. It didn't stay that way. Maxwell watches their exchange with detached amusement. How touching. The spy developed genuine feelings for her target. I'm sure that will be great comfort to you, Foster, knowing her affection was real while she was lying about everything else. Catherine turns to Maxwell, her posture shifting to something more dangerous. You're hardly in a position to talk about lies, William. Shall we discuss Cerberus, or the real reason you wanted access to military drone technology? The tension between them crackles like electricity before a storm. Jack recognizes the signs, two formidable opponents reaching a breaking point long in coming. Whatever their relationship has been, it's deteriorating rapidly. The standoff is interrupted by the sound of vehicles approaching. Multiple moving fast, Security monitors on Maxwell's desk show black SUVs breaching the gate. It seems, Maxwell says calmly, that your colleagues have decided to accelerate their timeline. Catherine's expression changes to alarm. Those aren't my people. Maxwell checks the monitors, his composure slipping for the first time. No, they're not. He turns to Jack with newfound urgency. Mr. Foster, I believe we have a mutual problem. Jack assesses the situation with cold clarity. Armed men approaching unknown affiliation. Catherine potentially compromised. Maxwell untrustworthy, but currently aligned against a common threat. Where's the evidence against him, he asks Catherine. Jack, you don't understand the evidence, he insists. Now. When she hesitates, Maxwell surprisingly answers. Northwest safe room, behind the Monet. Jack locks eyes with Catherine. You used me. You let me believe my wife's death was my fault when you knew the truth. Not initially, she whispers. I didn't know about Sarah until later. By then, her eyes hold as unflinching despite the advancing danger. By then, it wasn't just an operation anymore. Choose now, Jack, Maxwell interrupts. There's no middle ground left. In that moment, with armed operatives closing in and years of manipulation exposed, Jack makes his choice. Not for Maxwell or Catherine or their respective causes, but for the truth, for justice, for his daughter's future, in a world where powerful forces treat ordinary lives as expendable. The safe room, he says to Catherine. Now. They move quickly through the house toward the northwest wing. Maxwell follows, retrieving a handgun from a hidden compartment in the hallway bookcase. Who are they? Jack asks as they run. Third party, Maxwell replies. Someone who doesn't want either of us to win this particular game. The safe room is concealed behind a sliding panel disguised as a display for an impressionist painting. Catherine enters a code and the panel slides open to reveal a steel door with a biometric lock. Your print, she tells Maxwell, who complies with unexpected cooperation. Inside the room is a technological fortress, communications equipment, multiple monitors showing security feeds from around the property, weapons secured in wall-mounted cases. 8 men, Jack observes, counting figures on the monitors. Professional, military precision. They're clearing rooms systematically. Maxwell moves to a cabinet, retrieving a hard drive and several folders. Everything you need is here, he tells Catherine. All of Cerberus, all the offshore accounts, all the political leverage. He hands her the materials. Consider it my resignation. Catherine takes them, suspicion evident in her expression. Why now? Because I recognize when a position is no longer defensible. Maxwell's aristocratic features arrange themselves into a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. And because I prefer you have it than them. An explosion rocks the house, the main entrance being breached. On the monitors, the intruders move with tactical efficiency, clearing the rooms with practiced coordination. We have approximately 3 minutes before they reach this wing, Maxwell states, checking his weapon. The safe room will hold them off temporarily, but we need an exit strategy. The boat, Catherine says, through the lake access tunnel. Maxwell nods approvingly. You've done your homework. It's my job to know escape routes, she replies coldly. Jack assesses their options, military training taking over. You two take the tunnel. I'll create a diversion, draw them away from your exit. That's suicide, Catherine objects. No, it's tactical, Jack corrects. I know how these teams operate. I can outmaneuver them long enough for you to get clear. And why would you help us? Maxwell asks, genuine curiosity in his tone. I'm not helping you, Jack says flatly. I'm helping Emma. That evidence is the only leverage I have to keep her safe from all of this. He turns to Catherine. Get it to Marcus Rodriguez. He knows what to do with it. Catherine starts to object, but Jack cuts her off. I trusted you once. If any of it was real, trust me now. Their eyes meet in a moment of silent communication, regret, resolve, and something deeper that neither has time to acknowledge. Maxwell interrupts their exchange. Touching, but we have approximately 90 seconds remaining. Jack quickly reviews the security feeds, formulating his plan. I'll create a distraction in the east wing. When you hear it go, don't wait, don't look back. He selects weapons from the wall cabinet, a tactical shotgun and a sidearm similar to the one Marcus provided. The familiar weight settles into his hands like meeting an old friend. Catherine reaches for him, suddenly her composure cracking. Jack, save it. He cuts her off. Whatever it is, tell me after. If there is an after. He moves to the door, then pauses, looking back at this woman who entered his life through calculation, but who now looks at him with genuine fear for his safety. Emma's drawings, he says. The ones of you in the garden. They were good. Really saw you. Before Catherine can respond, Jack exits the safe room, the door sealing behind him. He moves through the house with renewed purpose, the years of civilian existence falling away like an ill-fitting garment. In their place, the disciplined focus of the warrior reemerges not with bloodlust, but with the crystalline clarity that comes from absolute necessity. The men hunting them are professionals, but so is Jack Foster. And he has something they don't intimate knowledge of this house and the desperate need to return to his daughter. On the security monitors, he had seen their tactical approach, identified their patterns. Now he would use that against them. Jack moves to the east wing, creating the promised diversion by triggering the fire suppression system. As alarms blare and sprinklers activate, he methodically disables the house's lighting systems, section by section, plunging areas into darkness while preserving his own night vision. Through the chaos, he engages the intruders with strategic precision, not seeking kills but creating confusion, separation, uncertainty. He becomes a ghost in the house, appearing and vanishing, drawing the team away from the northwest wing, where Catherine and Maxwell should now be escaping through the tunnel. In the kitchen, Jack encounters two operators moving in tandem. He recognizes their formation, their equipment, private military high-end, not government. He waits for their separation, then strikes disabling rather than killing when possible. These are professionals doing a job, not his true enemies. As he navigates toward his own escape route, Jack hears a shout from behind. Turning, he sees a figure raising a weapon. No time to dodge. Jack fires instinctively, the shot finding its mark. But not before the man gets off his own round. Pain explodes in Jack's shoulder as the bullet grazes him, tearing through muscle. He stumbles but keeps moving, applying pressure to the wound while calculating his remaining options. Outside, rain has begun to fall, nature providing additional cover. Jack makes it to the terrace, planning to circle back to the boathouse, where he might intercept Catherine and Maxwell before they get too far. At the lakefront, a figure emerges from the shadows. Catherine alone, drenched from the rain and tunnel passage. William, Jack asks, scanning the area behind her. "Conoce, she replies, her voice tight. He had a second boat prepared. Always an exit strategy. Jack assesses her condition, unharmed physically, but her expression speaks of new complications. The evidence? Catherine pats her jacket where the hard drive and documents are secured in waterproof packaging. Here, all of it. A shout from the house indicates the pursuit continues. Jack takes Catherine's arm, guiding her toward the woods bordering the property. My car's half a mile that way, he explains, wincing as the movement aggravates his wound. Catherine notices the blood seeping through his shirt. You're hit. It's nothing, he dismisses. Graze. They move through the trees, the sound of pursuit growing more distant. The rain intensifies, washing away their tracks, providing cover for their escape. Jack feels lightheaded from blood loss, but pushes forward, focusing on each step, each breath. When they reach his car, concealed beneath camouflage netting in a service access road, Catherine helps him into the passenger seat. Keys. He hands them over without argument, a testament to his deteriorating condition. As Catherine starts the engine, Jack's vision begins to blur at the edges. Stay with me, Jack. Her voice seems to come from a distance. We're almost clear. Emma Thom, he manages. Need to get to Emma. We will, Catherine promises, navigating the back roads with surprising skill. Just stay awake. Talk to me. About what? The question comes out slurred. Anything. Tell me about Emma. Tell me about Sarah. The mention of his wife's name brings a moment of clarity through the fog descending over his mind. Did you know from the beginning about Sarah? Catherine's hands tighten on the steering wheel. No, not at first. I was told you were a person of interest because of your military background and position at Oak Ridge. The operation was compartmentalized. I only learned the full scope after we became close. And you still continued. It's not a question, but Catherine answers anyway. I had my orders, but I also had questions. The deeper I looked into the Sarah case file, the more inconsistencies I found. She glances at him. That's why I needed your help accessing William's files. Not just for my agency, but for you, for the truth. Jack processes this through the growing haze of blood loss. Your agency. Who exactly do you work for? A division within intelligence that monitors domestic threats from powerful entities. William's connections to foreign governments, his manipulation of defense contracts, his blackmail operations against elected officials, all of it made him our concern. In Operation Eagle Shield, the children in that compound. Catherine's silence speaks volumes. That's what Sarah discovered. Jack continues putting pieces together despite his fading consciousness. That my team was fed false intelligence, that we were used to eliminate witnesses to something else. Yes, Catherine finally acknowledges. She was getting too close to people above William, people who couldn't afford exposure. The betrayal cuts deeper than the bullet wound. Not just Sarah's death, but the years of guilt Jack carried believing he had indirectly caused it by asking her to drive that night. Pull over, he says suddenly. Jack, we need to pee. Now. Catherine complies, guiding the car onto a gravel turnout overlooking the city below. Dawn is breaking over Boston, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Jack turns to face her, fighting through the pain and blood loss, to focus on her face. I need to know, all of it. No more compartmentalized information, no more need-to-know basis, everything. In the growing light, Catherine's face shows the weight of her decisions, the conflict between duty and something more personal that has grown between them. My real name is Claire Devereaux, she begins. I've been undercover as Catherine Maxwell for 4 years. William was targeted because of his connections to a group within the intelligence community called the Directive People, who believe they operate above law, above oversight, for what they determine is national security. She continues detailing a conspiracy that reaches into the highest levels of government and military. William Maxwell, powerful as he was, served as merely a middleman, a facilitator for operations too dark for official channels. Eagle Shield was one of theirs, she explains. The compound contained evidence of American involvement in a covert operation gone wrong. Your team was sent in to destroy everything and everyone connected to it. And Sarah figured this out. She had a source inside the Directive. When they discovered she was investigating, they eliminated her. Claire, no longer Catherine, in Jack's mind, looks away. They made it look like an accident to avoid drawing attention, but they kept tabs on you afterward, worried her research might have been shared with you. Why not just eliminate me too? Your background, your skills. They thought you might be useful someday, properly motivated and directed. So they arranged your security position at Oak Ridge, where you could be monitored while living a quiet life with Emma. The calculated cruelty of it, letting him live in grief and guilt, while watching him waiting to exploit his skills, ignites a cold fury in Jack's core. And your mission, was it always to recruit me against William? Claire hesitates. Initially, yes, to approach, you gain your trust, assess if you could be turned against Maxwell. And then I met you, met Emma, saw the real damage they'd done, not just file statistics, but living, breathing consequences. She meets his gaze directly. The mission parameters became complicated. Jack studies her face, searching for deception, and finding instead a complexity he recognizes: the moral compromise of believing in a cause while questioning its methods, of following orders while harboring private doubts. The garden, he says unexpectedly, the roses, was that part of your cover? The question catches her off guard. No, my mother really did plant those roses. My father really did sell that house to William after she died. A sad smile touches her lips. Not everything was a lie, Jack. The first rays of sunlight break over the horizon, illuminating Claire's face. In this new light, Jack sees her not as Catherine Maxwell, the elegant wife performing a role, nor as Agent Devereaux executing a mission, but as someone caught between worlds, just as he has been since returning from war. We need to get you medical attention, she says, breaking the moment, and we need to reach Emma. Jack nods, the mention of his daughter sharpening his focus through the pain. Marcus will have moved her by now. Providence, her grandmother's. As Claire puts the car in drive, Jack reaches for her hand, stopping her. After this is over, after Emma is safe, and the evidence is where it needs to be, you and I have unfinished business. It's not a threat, Not quite a promise, but an acknowledgement that whatever lies between them, manipulation, betrayal, and perhaps something genuine, cannot be resolved in this moment of crisis and revelation. Claire nods, understanding the depth behind his simple statement, one challenge at a time. They drive toward Providence as the new day fully emerges, bringing with it both illumination and the stark exposure of long-hidden truths. Jack's shoulder throbs with each heartbeat, a physical manifestation of the wounds reopened in his past. But alongside the pain burns a clarity of purpose he hasn't felt since before Sarah's death. The truth, however devastating, has set something free within him. The man at the gate has stepped beyond his post, beyond the boundaries that contained his grief and guilt. What remains is a father determined to protect his daughter, a soldier committed to justice, and a man awakening to the possibility that even lives built on lies can find redemption. As the city recedes behind them, Jack allows himself to drift toward unconsciousness, the blood loss finally overtaking his determination. The last thing he sees is Claire's profile against the rising sun, her hand reaching for his as darkness claims him. Jack Foster awakens to the steady rhythm of a heart monitor and the antiseptic smell of a hospital room. The ceiling above him swims into focus, water-stained acoustic tiles and fluorescent lights. Pain radiates from his shoulder, dulled by medication, but insistently present like a conversation held just beyond hearing. Memory returns in fragments. The Maxwell estate, gunfire, Claire's revelation in the car, then darkness. Welcome back. Jack turns his head to find Marcus Rodriguez seated beside the bed, his weathered face a mask of practiced neutrality. Behind that mask, concern and vigilance. Emma, Jack's voice emerges as a rasp, safe, with her grandmother in Providence, just like we planned. Marcus leans forward. Two of my people are watching the house. No one's approached. Relief washes through Jack, momentarily stronger than the pain. How long? 16 hours. Lost a lot of blood. Doctor says the bullet missed anything vital, but you still managed to make a mess of yourself. Jack attempts to sit up, wincing as the movement pulls at his wound. Marcus doesn't offer help, knowing better than to coddle a man like Jack Foster. Instead, he adjusts the bed controls, raising Jack to a sitting position. Claire? Jack asks, scanning the room as if she might materialize from the shadows. If you mean Catherine Maxwell or whatever her real name is, she brought you to a private clinic in Cambridge. Paid cash. Left you with a burner phone in this. Marcus hands over a sealed envelope. Disappeared before I arrived. Jack opens the envelope with careful movements. Inside, a handwritten note in elegant script he recognizes immediately. Jack. By now you know my real name and parts of the truth. What you don't yet know is that bringing down the directive has been my life's work for the past 6 years since they killed my partner in an accident similar to Sarah's. William was a means to that end. My marriage had a deep cover assignment that cost more than my superiors will ever understand. The evidence we recovered is already being processed through channels I trust. People who can protect both you and Emma. I've arranged security for you at this facility. The staff believes you're a federal witness in protective custody. What I told you in the car was true. All of it, including the parts I didn't say aloud. When you're ready, use the phone. One number is programmed in it. I'll answer, Claire. Jack folds the note carefully, his expression revealing nothing of the complex emotions beneath. Marcus watches him waiting. The hard drive, Jack asks finally. In safe hands. I made copies before passing it along to your FBI contact. Ramirez is solid. She's keeping it compartmentalized, building the case carefully. Marcus stands, moving to the window to check the street below out of habit. This goes beyond Maxwell Jack. Way beyond. Military contracts, intelligence operations, political leverage against 3 administrations. The directive, Jack says the name feeling strange on his tongue. An enemy without a face, responsible for Sarah's death, for the manipulation of his life, for the exploitation of his guilt. That's what they call themselves, apparently. Marcus turns back to face his friend. Very Old Testament, very self-important. His attempt at levity falls flat against the gravity of their situation. Jack's mind sharpens, the tactical assessment coming naturally despite his weakened state. They'll try to contain this. Anyone connected to the evidence is a liability. Already handled. The evidence is distributed to multiple secure locations. If anything happens to Ramirez, to me, to you, it all goes public simultaneously. Marcus allows himself a small, grim smile. I may be just a PI now, but I remember how the game is played. Jack nods, acknowledging his friend's foresight. I need to see Emma. Not yet, you're still on their radar. Drawing a line to her grandmother's house would be a rookie mistake. Marcus's expression softens, marginally. She knows you're okay. I told her you were working on something important, that you'll call when you can. The thought of Emma waiting and wondering adds a new dimension to Jack's pain. But Marcus is right. Professional discipline must override paternal instinct for now. The woman Claire, Marcus continues. You trust her. Jack considers the question with all its layers. Trust. Such a simple word for such a complex calculation. She lied about everything, he says finally. Her name, her marriage, her interest in me. But she saved my life at the estate. Could have left me behind, completed her mission without the complications. Jack meets his friend's skeptical gaze. And she knew about Sarah, knew the truth, and still helped me find it even when it implicated her own agency. Marcus absorbs this, neither accepting nor rejecting Jack's assessment. Complicated women make for complicated situations. Speaking from experience, Jack asks a ghost of their old camaraderie surfacing briefly. 3 ex-wives. What do you think? Marcus moves toward the door. Rest, heal. I'll be back tonight with a secure laptop. We need to review what's on that drive, prepare for what comes next. After Marcus leaves, Jack sits in the quiet, feeling the weight of all that's been revealed pressing against his chest more heavily than the wound in his shoulder. He reaches for the burner phone on the nightstand, turning it over in his hand. Not yet. He needs more strength, more clarity before that conversation. Instead, he closes his eyes, allowing himself to drift not towards sleep, but toward the disciplined meditation he learned in the military. A technique for processing trauma, for preparing the mind for combat while the body rests. In that space between consciousness and dreaming, Jack sifts through memories, Sarah's smile across their kitchen table, Emma's first steps, the weight of his service weapon, Catherine's hands in the garden soil, the truth of Claire's eyes in the dawn light. Somewhere in this tangle of truth and deception lies the path forward, not just survival, but redemption. For himself, for Emma. Perhaps even for Claire, whose mission became complicated by the very humanity she was tasked with exploiting. 3 days later, Jack checks himself out of the clinic against medical advice. His shoulder protests with each movement, but he's endured worse. Physical pain is a known quantity manageable through discipline and focus. Far more difficult to navigate is the landscape of his altered understanding of Sarah's death, of his own unwitting role in operations he once believed honorable, of the shadowy forces that have shaped his life from just beyond his awareness. Marcus meets him outside, driving a nondescript sedan Jack doesn't recognize. You look like hell, Marcus observes as Jack settles carefully into the passenger seat. I've had better weeks. They drive in silence through Cambridge, taking a circuitous route to ensure they aren't followed. Jack watches the city pass by streets filled with people living ordinary lives, unaware of the currents moving beneath the surface of their democracy, their security. Ramirez called, Marcus says finally. The evidence is solid. Names, dates, financial transactions, all connecting Maxwell to operations the government officially denies. But moving forward is complicated. Politics, Jack says unsurprised. Some of the people implicated have serious connections. The kind that can make investigations disappear. Witnesses recant evidence, become inadmissible. Jack nods, having expected nothing less. And Emma, still safe, but we should move her. The longer she stays in one location, the greater the risk. They arrive at a small apartment above a laundromat in Somerville, one of Marcus's safe houses, Jack assumes. Inside, the space is sparse but functional. Laptop on the kitchen table. Printer. Burner phones. A Glock similar to the one Jack lost at the Maxwell estate rests beside a box of ammunition. Marcus gestures to the laptop. Everything from the hard drive. Take your time. I've got errands to run. His tone makes clear these errands relate to their security arrangements. Alone, Jack settles at the table and begins methodically reviewing the files. Hours pass as he absorbs the scope of the conspiracy Claire had described. The directive, a cabal of military officials, intelligence operatives, and private contractors operating in the shadow of legitimate government, manipulating policy, eliminating threats and accumulating power through information warfare and strategic violence. His own mission in Afghanistan, Operation Eagle Shield, featured prominently. The intelligence his SEAL team received had been deliberately falsified. The Taliban weapons cache they destroyed had actually contained evidence of illegal arms sales facilitated by directive members. The civilians killed collateral damage to cover the truth. Jack's resignation from service had been anticipated, even planned for. His subsequent depression, his withdrawal into grief after Sarah's death, all monitored and allowed to progress because a broken man was easier to control when the time came. And Catherine Maxwell Claire Devereaux had been sent to provide that control, to manipulate him into action against William Maxwell as part of an internal power struggle within the intelligence community. What neither side had anticipated was the genuine connection that formed. The evidence showed Claire's handler becoming increasingly concerned about her emotional compromise regarding the foster asset, orders to maintain professional distance, questions about her loyalty to the operation. Among the files, Jack finds surveillance photos of himself and Claire at the cafe in the garden, walking through the farmer's market with Emma. In one image, Claire looks at him with an expression that even the clinical lens of surveillance cannot render emotionless. Whatever began as manipulation had evolved into something her handlers recognized as dangerous to their operation. Jack closes the laptop, his mind processing the implications. The directive had used him once as a weapon against innocent people. Claire's agency had attempted to use him again as a weapon against Maxwell. Now both sides would view him as a liability to be eliminated. The burner phone Claire provided sits on the table beside the laptop. Jack picks it up, considering. Not yet. He needs one more piece of the puzzle before that call. When Marcus returns, Jack is cleaning the Glock with mechanical precision, his movements economical despite the pain in his shoulder. You've made a decision. I am. Marcus observes, setting down a bag of takeout food. I need to speak with Ramirez directly. Need to understand who she answers to, who we can trust in the Bureau. Marcus nods. Already arranged. Tomorrow morning, neutral location. He studies his friend's face. And after that, I get my daughter back. The rest. Jack reassembles the Glock with practiced ease. The rest depends on who stands in my way. That night, Jack sleeps lightly, waking at the smallest sounds, a car passing on the street below the building's heating system cycling on. Old instincts returning. The warrior's awareness that carried him through hostile territories now redeployed in what should have been the safety of his homeland. In the gray light before dawn, he makes his decision. He picks up Claire's phone and dials the only number programmed into it. She answers on the second ring. Jack, not a question. She's been waiting for this call. I've reviewed the files, he says without preamble. I know about Eagle Shield, about the directive, about your mission regarding me. A pause. And I need to know one thing before we move forward. One thing not in any file or report. Ask. Sarah, did she suffer? The question hangs between them, loaded with all the grief and guilt he's carried for 3 years. In the silence that follows, Jack can hear Claire's measured breathing, the consideration she's giving his question. No, she says finally. It was instantaneous. The crash was designed to, she stops herself, recalibrating. Not an operative delivering a report, but a human acknowledging suffering. She didn't feel pain, Jack. She was gone before she could be afraid. Relief washes through him, a small mercy in a sea of calculated cruelty. Thank you for the truth. Always from now on. The promise in her voice carries weight. Where are you? Not over the phone. I'm meeting Ramirez tomorrow. After that, I'll contact you. Jack, be careful. Ramirez is solid, but the Bureau has directive sympathizers. If the wrong people learn you're meeting, I know the risks. His tone softens marginally. I'll be in touch. After ending the call, Jack sits in the growing light, feeling something shift within him. Not forgiveness, he's not there yet, may never be, but purpose, direction. The path forward coming into focus like terrain under clearing fog. The meeting with FBI agent Teresa Ramirez is set for 9 a.m. at the Harvard Museum of Natural History, public enough to discourage direct action, controlled enough to spot surveillance. Jack arrives an hour early, positioning himself with clear sight lines to all entrances, back to the wall, civilian visitors between himself and potential threats. Ramirez arrives precisely on time, Mid-50s, silver streaking, her dark hair moving with the contained energy of someone who has spent a career operating in challenging environments. She pretends to study an exhibit of minerals while speaking in a low voice. Marcus vouches for you. That carries weight with me. Jack acknowledges this with a slight nod. The evidence on Maxwell, compelling but complicated by national security implications. She turns slightly, appearing to examine a geode while actually scanning the room. There are people in justice who want to bury this, people in intelligence who are actively working to discredit the evidence. The directive. Ramirez's eyes sharpen at his use of the name. Yes, though we don't use that term officially, to acknowledge their existence as an organized entity rather than individual bad actors would create problems. They killed my wife, Jack says, his voice level despite the weight of the words. They manipulated my military service to eliminate witnesses to their operations. They positioned me for years as an asset to be activated when convenient. Those seem like problems worth acknowledging. Ramirez studies him openly now, professional assessment rather than judgment. You're right, but I'm playing a longer game here, building a case that won't collapse under political pressure or national security exemptions. She hands him a museum brochure with a small device taped inside. This will temporarily disable surveillance equipment. 20-foot radius, 90-second duration. If you need to move freely, use it sparingly. Jack pockets the device. Emma. We can arrange protective custody, but given the directive's reach. No, official channels are compromised. I'll handle her security personally. Ramirez nods unsurprised. There's something else you should know. William Maxwell has resurfaced. This catches Jack off guard. Where? Geneva. He's offering testimony against his former associates in exchange for immunity. Claims he was a reluctant participant coerced through threats against his family. Jack's jaw tightens. Convenient narrative. Indeed, but his testimony could prove valuable regardless of his motives. Ramirez checks her watch. Our window is closing. What do you need from me? Time and a clear path to Emma. After that, I'll provide everything I know about the Directive Eagle Shield, all of it. But my daughter comes first. Understood. Ramirez hands him another brochure, this one containing a keycard and address. Safe house in Vermont. Off the books. Even my director doesn't know about this location. 24 hours. Then we talk again. As she walks away, Jack remains still processing. Maxwell resurfacing changes the dynamic. If he's negotiating with authorities, the directive will be scrambling to contain potential damage, eliminate loose ends. Their timetable for dealing with Jack, with Claire, with anyone who knows too much will accelerate. Outside the museum, Jack spots the surveillance immediately. Two men in a sedan trying too hard to appear casual. Federal technique, not private contractors. Ramirez's people, then not the directive, at least not yet. He makes a show of checking his phone, then walks unhurriedly toward the subway station. At the entrance, he activates Ramirez's device, using the 90-second window to disappear into the crowd and exit through a service door, emerging 2 blocks away, where Marcus waits in yet another unremarkable vehicle. Productive, Marcus asks as Jack slides into the passenger seat. Vermont, safe house. Jack shows him the address. We get Emma, then go dark until I can assess Maxwell's play. Marcus pulls into traffic, heading north. And the woman Claire, Jack stares out the window, watching Cambridge recede in the side mirror. She's part of this, has been from the beginning. That's not what I asked. Jack turns to his friend, his expression unreadable. I don't know yet, but I need to. The drive to Providence takes just over an hour, tension building in Jack's chest with each mile. 3 days since he's seen Emma. An eternity for a father who checks on his daughter every night before sleeping, who measures his life's success solely by her well-being. Sarah's mother lives in a modest colonial on a quiet street lined with maple trees, now bare in the November chill. As they approach, Jack scans for surveillance, for anything out of place in this peaceful neighborhood. Nothing obvious, but the hairs on the back of his neck rise. Nevertheless, the warrior's sixth sense that has saved his life more than once. Circle the block, he instructs Marcus. Something's not right. Marcus complies without question, driving past the house. Jack studies the windows, the parked cars, the pattern of dead leaves on the lawn undisturbed by footprints. Too quiet, he murmurs. No movement inside. Grace always keeps the kitchen curtains open during the day. They park 2 streets over. Jack checks the Glock, then looks at Marcus. Stay with the car. Engine running. If I'm not back in 5 minutes with Emma and Abrau's leave, contact Ramirez using the emergency protocol. Jack. 5 minutes, he repeats, then exits the vehicle before Marcus can object further. Jack approaches the house from the rear, moving through neighboring yards with the fluid stealth of his military days. The back door shows no signs of forced entry, but the kitchen beyond lies in unnatural stillness. No sounds of conversation, no television in the background, none of the normal rhythms of a home occupied by a 12-year-old girl and her grandmother. He tries the door, unlocked. Another warning sign. Grace Foster, shaped by the caution of a military wife's life, never leaves doors unsecured. Inside the kitchen is immaculate breakfast dishes, washed and put away a pot of coffee, half full on the warmer. A newspaper lies open on the table, reading glasses placed precisely beside it. No signs of struggle or hasty departure. Grace, Jack calls out, moving deeper into the house, gun held low but ready. Emma. No response. He checks each room, methodically, living room, dining room, study. All empty, all undisturbed. Upstairs, Grace's bedroom appears normal bed, made with hospital corners as per her lifelong habit. In the guest room where Emma has been staying, Jack finds her sketchbook open on the bed, a drawing half completed, the lake house from their happier days, rendered with the careful attention to detail that marks all her work. Beside it, her backpack lies unzipped, contents partially spilled onto the bedspread, as if she had been searching for something in a hurry. Jack checks the closet. Emma's clothes still hanging neatly, her toothbrush still in the bathroom. No indication of packing for a planned departure. As he turns to leave the room, a small sound, was shining from the closet, freezes him in place. The softest intake of breath, almost imperceptible. Jack raises the Glock, moving silently toward the closet door he had just checked. Emma, he calls softly. It's Dad. Are you in there? A moment of silence, then the door opens slowly to reveal not Emma but Grace, his mother-in-law, eyes wide with fear that transitions to relief at the sight of him. Jack, she whispers. Thank God. Where's Emma? He asks, helping the older woman from her hiding place. They took her. Grace's voice trembles. 2 men in suits said they were federal agents needed to place her in protective custody due to your situation. Her hands gripped Jack's arms with surprising strength. I knew something was wrong. They wouldn't let me call you, wouldn't show proper identification. I pretended to cooperate, told them I needed my medication from upstairs. Hid in the closet instead. Cold fury washes through Jack, clarifying rather than clouding his thoughts. When bus, 20 minutes ago, perhaps 30, not long. Tears fill Grace's eyes. I'm so sorry, Jack. I should have. This isn't your fault, he interrupts gently. Did you hear anything that might indicate where they were taking her? Grace shakes her head, only that it was for her protection while they resolved the situation with her father. She grips his hand. Jack, what's happening? What kind of trouble are you in? The kind that's about to end. He promises, guiding her toward the stairs. I need you to come with me now. It's not safe here. Outside, Jack scans the street before hurrying Grace toward Marcus's waiting car. No sign of surveillance, no indication of the men who took Emma. They planned well a quick extraction with minimal visibility. They have Emma, Jack informs Marcus as they settle Grace in the back seat. 20-30 minutes ahead of us. Marcus absorbs this with the same grim professionalism that has carried him through decades of conflict. Where would they take her? Jack considers the question, mind racing through possibilities. Not far initially. They'll want to assess whether they were compromised, make sure they weren't followed. Then they'll move her to a secure location for leverage. Leverage against you, Marcus clarifies. Yes. Jack turns to Grace. Did Emma have her phone with her? Yes, but one of the men took it from her immediately, said it could be tracked. They're professionals, Marcus notes, but not necessarily directive. Could be FBI, faction, CIA, any number of players in this game. Jack shakes his head. Doesn't matter whose badge they carry. They took my daughter. His voice remains calm, but something in his eyes causes even Marcus to tense. Find us a safe place for Grace. Then we hunt. As Marcus drives, Jack retrieves Claire's burner phone. No longer a decision to weigh, but a necessity. She answers immediately. Jack, They took Emma. No preamble, no explanation needed. A sharp intake of breath, then the immediate shift to operational focus. When half hour ago, Providence, two men posing as federal agents, professional extraction. Directive protocol, Claire confirms. Initial holding location within 50 miles of extraction point. Secondary transport after security confirmation. I need their playbook, Claire. Every detail you have on their child extraction operations. On it. Where are you now? Heading north. I have Grace with me. Need to secure her first. There's a motel in Nashua, the Pineview. Room 17 is paid for through the month registered under Walter Collins. Go there. I'll meet you. Jack hesitates only briefly before agreeing. Trust remains complicated between them, but their objectives align perfectly in this moment. Find Emma before she disappears into the directives machinery. After settling Grace at the safe house Ramirez provided in Vermont with Marcus remaining as protection, Jack drives to Nashua alone. The Pineview Motel sits just off the highway, a single-story relic of the 1960s that has survived through strategic invisibility, the kind of place that asks no questions and keeps no records beyond what's absolutely necessary. Room 17 is at the far end of the building, partially obscured by an ice machine and vending area. Jack parks directly in front, positioning his vehicle for quick departure. The curtains are drawn, but a sliver of light indicates occupancy. He approaches cautiously, Glock ready but concealed beneath his jacket. 3 measured knocks on the door. "It's open!" Claire's voice calls from within. Jack enters to find her seated at a small table covered with maps, printouts, and a laptop. She looks different from Catherine Maxwell. Hair shorter, darker, practical clothing replacing designer labels, the polished socialite veneer stripped away to reveal the operative beneath. Yet something in her eyes when they meet his remains unchanged. Jack. She stands assessing his condition with a professional gaze that softens at the edges. "Your shoulder." "Functional," he dismisses. "What do you have?" Claire gestures to the material spread across the table. Directive extraction protocols. They operate on a hub-and-spoke model for high-value assets. Initial holding location within the extraction zone for assessment, then transferred to regional hub for processing or leverage application. Jack studies the maps where she's marked potential locations. "How many initial sites in the Providence region?" 7 that I know of. 3 are higher probability based on recent activity patterns. She indicates properties circled in red. An office building with a secure sub-basement in Warwick, a private medical facility in Attleboro, a warehouse complex near Foxborough. Jack examines each location, the tactical part of his mind, evaluating approach, vectors, security measures, extraction, routes. "They'll expect me to come for her." "Yes, the extraction itself is likely designed specifically to draw you out." Claire meets his gaze directly. "Emma is bait, Jack. They want you to attempt a rescue." "I know." His voice remains steady despite the rage simmering beneath. "That's why I won't be going in alone." Claire's expression shifts to surprise, then understanding. "You're trusting me to help." "I'm trusting you to help me find my daughter," Jack clarifies. "The rest we'll address after Emma is safe." She nods, accepting the limited scope of his trust as appropriate under the circumstances. "I have equipment in the car. Weapons, tactical gear, communication devices, not linked to any agency network." We start with the medical facility. Jack decides studying the layout she's provided. Easiest to approach undercover as patients or staff most likely to have the infrastructure for holding a child without raising suspicions. Claire begins gathering the most relevant materials. "We should move now. Their transfer window is typically 4 to 6 hours after extraction. If we miss them at the initial site, we won't." Jack interrupts his tone, brooking no argument. The alternative is unacceptable, unthinkable. They work together with the efficient harmony of professionals who understand the rhythm of tactical planning. Claire provides intelligence on directive procedures, security protocols, identification methods. Jack develops the infiltration strategy, contingencies, extraction plan. Despite everything that has happened between them, the schicksals, the manipulations, the betrayals, their operational compatibility remains undamaged. In another life, Jack reflects, they would have made an exceptional team. "One more thing," Claire says as they prepare to depart. She retrieves a small metal case from her duffel bag. Inside, nestled in foam, lies a syringe filled with clear liquid. Directive operators carry suicide protocols. If captured, they're trained to eliminate themselves rather than risk interrogation. Jack stares at the syringe, understanding immediately. Fast-acting paralytic. Claire nods. Non-lethal if administered correctly. Immobilizes in seconds, conscious but unable to move for approximately 30 minutes. Enough time to secure and transport for questioning. You came prepared. Jack observes, neither approving nor condemning. I came ready to do whatever necessary to find Emma. Claire's eyes hold his unflinching. And to give you the answers you deserve. All of them. The drive to Attleboro takes 40 minutes, during which they review the plan once more. The private medical facility, New England Neurological Institute, operates primarily as a research center, but maintains a fully functional medical wing where a child could be held without attracting attention. They park 2 blocks away, Jack changing into scrubs provided by Claire, who dons the attire of an administrative staff member. Their approach to the facility appears casual. Unremarkable, 2 employees returning from break-eyed badges clipped to their clothing. The badges, Claire explains, are programmed with credentials stolen from the directive's own database, valid for another 8 hours before the system refreshes. At the service entrance, Jack feels the familiar focus descend, the tunnel vision of operational necessity that eliminates extraneous concerns, narrows the world to mission objectives and tactical awareness. The pain in his shoulder recedes to background noise. Even his fear for Emma transforms into calculated determination. The first hurdle, the security desk, they pass with practiced ease, Claire engaging the guard with a question about scheduling, while Jack signs in using credentials prepared for this moment. Inside, they move with purpose, belonging created through confidence rather than familiarity. Sub-level 3, Claire murmurs as they enter an elevator. Restricted access, but these badges should get us through. Jack notes the camera in the elevator's corner, angling his face slightly away while remaining natural in his movements. Claire does the same, their coordination wordless and fluid. Sub-level 3 requires both badge and key code. Claire enters the numbers from memory, her fingers moving with practiced precision. The doors open to reveal a sterile corridor, brightly lit and empty save for a nurse's station where a single attendant monitors security feeds. They approach together, Claire speaking before the attendant can question their presence. Dr. Mercer sent us to check on the new arrival, the girl with post-traumatic amnesia. The attendant frowns slightly. I wasn't informed. Last-minute decision, Jack interjects, adopting the slightly harried tone of overworked medical staff. You know how it is with the priority cases. A moment of hesitation, then the attendant nods. Room 37, but she's sedated for transfer. Orders are to prep her for transport at 1800. Jack's heart constricts at the confirmation Emma here sedated, scheduled for a transfer in less than an hour. He maintains his professional facade through force of will alone. We'll be quick, Claire assures the attendant. Just need baseline readings before transport. They move down the corridor, pace measured despite the urgency pulsing through Jack's veins. Room 307 has a small observation window in the door. Jack looks through to see Emma lying on a hospital bed, eyes closed, an IV in her arm. A single guard sits in a chair near the door, attention focused on a tablet in his hands. Jack turns to Claire, a silent communication passing between them. She nods, understanding his intent, and begins their contingency plan. Claire approaches the guard, medical chart in hand. Excuse me, I need to check the patient before transport. The guard looks up, immediately suspicious. I wasn't notified of any checks. Standard procedure, Claire insists, moving closer. We need vitals for the transport team. As the guard rises, Jack positions himself behind Claire, hidden from the guard's direct line of sight. When the guard reaches for his radio, Claire strikes a precise movement that appears to be a stumble, but brings her directly into the guard's space. The syringe appears in her hand as if by magic, the injection delivered to the man's thigh through his pants in one fluid motion. The guard's expression shifts from confusion to alarm as his limbs begin to fail him. Jack catches him before he can fall, lowering him silently to the floor as the paralytic takes effect. The man's eyes remain open, aware but unable to move or speak. 10 seconds, Jack murmurs, referring to their window before the attendant might become suspicious. Claire takes up position at the door, watching the corridor while Jack enters the room. At Emma's bedside, Jack checks the IV, mild sedation, nothing dangerous. He removes it carefully, then places his hand gently on his daughter's shoulder. Emma, he calls softly. Emma, it's Dad. I need you to wake up. Her eyelids flutter, then open slowly, unfocused at first. Recognition dawns gradually through the sedative haze. Dad. Her voice comes as a whisper, confused but trusting. We're leaving now, he tells her, helping her to sit up. Can you walk? Emma nods, still disoriented but determined. Jack helps her stand, supporting her weight as her legs stabilize. Claire appears in the doorway. We need to move. Attendant is making calls. Jack lifts Emma into his arms despite the protest from his wounded shoulder. She weighs nothing to him in this moment, adrenaline and paternal determination overriding physical limitations. They exit the room to find the corridor still empty, but the distinct sound of an alarm begins to pulse through the facility, not the blaring emergency kind, but the measured electronic tone of a security protocol activation. This way, Claire directs, leading them not back toward the elevator, but deeper into the facility. Service elevator to loading dock. Less surveillance. Jack follows Emma, cradled against his chest, her arms wrapped around his neck as awareness returns gradually. They move swiftly but without running, maintaining the appearance of medical staff, transferring a patient ordinary in purpose, if urgent, in pace. The service elevator requires only badge access. Claire swipes them through and the doors close just as voices echo from the main corridor behind them. Are you hurt? Jack asks Emma as they descend. She shakes her head, eyes clearer now. They said they were protecting me, that you were in trouble. I know, he soothes. It was a lie, but you're safe now. The elevator opens to a loading dock where medical supplies and equipment are processed. Two workers look up in surprise at their arrival. Claire steps forward immediately. Emergency patient transfer. Where's the nearest exit? The workers hesitate, confused by the irregular procedure. Now, Claire's voice carries the unmistakable tone of command. One worker points toward a service door leading to the parking area. They move quickly toward it, Jack setting Emma on her feet but keeping a supportive arm around her shoulders. Behind them, the elevator closes, but the security alarm continues its steady pulse. Outside, the November air hits them with bracing coldness. Claire leads them not toward their parked car, but across the lot to another vehicle, a nondescript sedan with rental plates. Contingency, she explains, unlocking it with a key fob. They'll be looking for the car we arrived in. Jack helps Emma into the back seat, then slides in beside her, unwilling to let her out of his reach. Claire takes the wheel, navigating them away from the facility with careful attention to speed limits and traffic regulations. Nothing to draw attention, nothing to trigger automated plate readers or traffic cameras. Only when they're on the highway heading north does Jack allow himself to fully exhale. Emma leans against him, the sedative still affecting her, but wearing off steadily. The men, she says suddenly, they knew things about me, about my school, about Mom. She looks up at Jack, her eyes reflecting confusion and the first edges of fear as the situation's reality begins to register. How did they know those things? Jack meets his daughter's gaze, seeing in it not just the child he's protected, but the perceptive young woman she's becoming. In this moment, he makes a decision: no more shields of convenient half-truths, no more protection through ignorance. They've been watching us, he tells her simply, for a long time, because of something that happened when I was a soldier and something your mother discovered later. Emma absorbs this, her expression thoughtful despite the remnants of sedation. Is that why those men came to the house that day? Why you've been different lately? From the driver's seat, Claire glances back, her eyes meeting Jack's in the rearview mirror. An unspoken question messes between them. How much truth is too much for a child who has already endured so much? Yes, Jack confirms. I learned some things about why your mom died. It wasn't an accident, Emma, and it wasn't my fault for not picking her up that night. His voice catches slightly. It wasn't anyone's fault except the people who did it. Emma's hand finds his small fingers intertwining with his larger ones. I never blamed you, Dad, she says quietly. Not really. I was just angry at everything. The simple honesty of her words breaks something open in Jack's chest, a knot of guilt and grief that has defined his existence for 3 years. He pulls her closer, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. Where are we going now? Emma asks after a moment. Jack looks to Claire, who has been silent during this exchange. Somewhere safe, she answers, a place where we can regroup, figure out our next steps. The Vermont safe house, Jack clarifies. Marcus and your grandmother are waiting. Emma nods satisfied with this answer for now. The sedative finally catches up with her and she drifts into sleep against Jack's odd her breathing deep and even. When he's certain she's truly asleep, Jack addresses Claire. They'll track the facility breach. They'll know it was us. Yes, she confirms. We have perhaps a 3-hour window before they recalibrate, 5 at most. And William Maxwell, how does his reappearance factor in? Claire's hands tighten on the steering wheel. If he's truly cooperating with authorities, the directive will be in containment mode. All assets secured or eliminated, all evidence destroyed or discredited. Making us even higher priority targets, Jack concludes. Yes, but also creating opportunity. Organizations in crisis make mistakes. Lines of communication break down. Loyalties shift. She meets his eyes briefly in the mirror. We can use that chaos if we move quickly. Jack considers their position, the pieces on the board, the moves and countermoves available. Ramirez, we need to get the evidence to her immediately, force the issue into official channels before the directive can contain it. Agreed, but we need insurance. Maxwell's testimony alone won't be enough, especially if they paint him as seeking immunity through false accusations. The hard drive, Jack says, and my direct testimony about Eagle's Shield about Sarah's death. Claire nods. Combined with my records from inside the directive's operational structure, enough to force acknowledgement even from those who would prefer to look away. They drive in silence for several miles, the weight of what lies ahead settling between them. Finally, Claire speaks again, her voice softer than before. Jack, when this is over, if we succeed, what then? The question contains layers he's not yet ready to address fully. Instead, he focuses on the most immediate concern. Emma, a new start somewhere quiet, somewhere she can heal, can be a normal kid again. And you, Claire presses gently. Jack looks down at his daughter's sleeping face, at the trust implicit in her rest against him despite all that's happened. I stopped being the man at the gate, he says finally. Stop being the invisible guardian, the passive observer. Beyond that, he meets Claire's eyes in the mirror. I don't know yet. Claire accepts this answer with a slight nod, understanding its honesty, if not its fullness. For what it's worth, she offers, I think you'll find your way, both of you. The landscape outside transitions from suburban sprawl to the rolling hills of northern Massachusetts, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across fields already preparing for winter's embrace. Jack watches America pass by through the window. This country he fought for, believed in, nearly died for now, revealed as hosting the very threats he once thought existed only beyond its borders. Yet alongside this disillusionment burns a rekindled purpose. Not the blind patriotism of his youth or the bitter resignation of his widowhood, but something more nuanced, a determination to protect what matters, to seek justice, not for abstract principles, but for specific wrongs against specific people. For Sarah, for Emma, perhaps even for himself. As they cross into New Hampshire, Emma stirs against him, eyes opening with greater clarity than before. Dad, she murmurs, are we still running? Jack considers his answer carefully. My running, Emma, heading towards something, not away. She seems to accept this distinction, sitting up straighter to look out the window at the passing landscape. After a moment, she notices Claire for the first time since the sedative began to clear her system. You're the garden lady, she says simply, from Dad's work. Claire smiles, slightly visible in the rearview mirror. Yes, though my name isn't Catherine, it's Claire. Emma absorbs this revelation with the adaptability of youth. Are you helping us? Yes, Claire confirms. I'm helping your dad make some things right. Emma studies her with the direct gaze that has always reminded Jack of Sarah, perceptive, unfiltered by adult pretense. Good, she decides finally. He needs help sometimes, even if he doesn't say so. The observation delivered with childlike certainty brings an unexpected smile to Jack's face, the first genuine one in what feels like years. In this moment of acute danger with unknown threats pursuing them and an uncertain future ahead, his daughter has managed to distill a truth he's spent years denying. The revelation feels like the first breath after long submersion, painful in its intensity, but necessary for life to continue. As they drive toward Vermont, toward Marcus and Grace, and whatever confrontation awaits, Jack Foster realizes he has already begun to transform. The gatekeeper has left his post, stepping beyond the boundaries that once contained his grief and guilt. What remains is a father determined to protect his daughter, a soldier committed to justice, and a man awakening to the possibility that even lives built on lies can find their way to truth. The road stretches before them, winding into hills now touched with the last gold of autumn. Jack watches the shadows lengthen across the land, feeling neither the optimism of a happy ending nor the despair of certain defeat, but the quiet determination of a man who has found at last the battle worth fighting. The Vermont safe house sits deep in the Green Mountains, a rustic cabin accessed by a single dirt road that winds through dense forest. As they approach in the gathering dusk, Jack notes the tactical advantages of the location: limited access points, clear lines of sight, natural barriers to surveillance or approach. Agent Ramirez chose well. Marcus meets them at the door, weapon visible at his hip, eyes scanning the tree line behind them before ushering them inside. Grace engulfs Emma in a fierce embrace, tears streaming down her lined face. "Thank God," she whispers, looking over Emma's head to Jack with gratitude that needs no verbalization. The cabin's interior is sparse but functional: wood stove for heat generator, for power, basic furnishings. The walls, Jack notes immediately, are reinforced. The windows equipped with shutters that appear decorative but would withstand significant force. Not just a hideaway but a defensible position. Marcus eyes Claire with professional suspicion. "You vouching for her?" he asks Jack. "She helped get Emma out," Jack replies, neither a full endorsement nor a rejection. "And she has information we need." This seems to satisfy Marcus for the moment. He secures the door behind them, then leads them to the main room where a topographical map of the surrounding area is spread across the table. "Ramirez called," he informs them. "Things are accelerating." Maxwell's testimony has created splits within the intelligence community. Some factions moving to protect the directive, others pushing for investigation. "We need to get our evidence to Ramirez immediately," Claire says, setting her bag on the table. Combined with Maxwell's testimony, it creates an irrefutable case. Marcus regards her skeptically. "And we trust you because her operational knowledge just helped me extract Emma from a directive facility," Jack interjects. "And because she could have disappeared at any point but chose to stay involved." Claire meets Marcus's assessing gaze directly. "I've been working against the directive for 6 years since they killed my partner. My marriage to Maxwell was an assignment. My approach to Jack was an assignment. But what I discovered during that operation about Sarah's death, about Eagle Shield, about the exploitation of good people for corrupt purposes, that changed everything." "Pretty words," Marcus acknowledges, "but this business runs on more than good intentions. Which is why I brought this." Claire opens her bag, removing a laptop and external drive. "Complete operational records of the directive's activities for the past eight years, including their infiltration of legitimate intelligence agencies, their manipulation of military operations, their elimination of journalists and whistleblowers who got too close to the truth." She looks at Jack, including Sarah. The room falls silent as the weight of her offering registers. This is not merely assistance, it's betrayal of her former agency, her former life. Whatever her original mission regarding Jack, she has now burned all bridges behind her. "If we transmit this to Ramirez," Jack says carefully, "there's no going back. For any of us." Claire nods, understanding the implications fully. "The directive has contingencies for defectors. They'll come with everything they have." "Let them come," Marcus says grimly, patting his weapon. "This position is defensible." Jack shakes his head. "No, not with Emma and Grace here." He turns to Claire. "Is there a secure transmission method? Something that can't be traced back to this location?" "Yes, satellite uplink bounced through multiple relays. It will buy us time, though not indefinitely." As the adults confer, Emma sits quietly by the fire, sketchbook open on her lap. Jack notices her drawing not the traumatic scenes he might have expected after her ordeal, but something more hopeful. A lake house similar to the one from their happier days, but with subtle differences. A garden where none had existed before. A dock extending into calm water. Jack moves to sit beside her, studying the drawing more closely. "What's this?" Emma looks up, her expression thoughtful beyond her years. "Where we should go, after." "After. When we don't have to run anymore." She points to the garden in her drawing. "For Claire. She likes growing things." The simple observation, her assumption that Claire will remain part of their future, catches Jack off guard. Children see patterns adults often miss, connections that exist beneath conscious awareness. Before he can respond, Claire approaches her, expression grave. Transmission is ready, but there's something you should know first. She hesitates, clearly weighing her words. There will be blowback, not just from the directive, but from legitimate agencies implicated by association. Witness protection would be the standard protocol, but the directive has penetrated those programs. Jack finishes for her. We'd never be truly safe. Claire nods. There's an alternative. I have contacts, people who help intelligence officers disappear when operations go catastrophically wrong. New identities, new locations, complete disconnection from previous lives. Ghosts, Marcus says, understanding immediately. The kind of disappearance even agencies can't track. Yes, it would mean leaving everything behind, permanently. Jack looks back at Emma, at her drawing of a future she's already begun to envision. Then to Grace, who has spent the last 3 years helping him hold together the fragments of their broken family. Whatever it takes, he decides. Emma's safety comes first. The truth comes second. Everything else is negotiable. Claire accepts this with a nod. I'll make the arrangements while we transmit to Ramirez. The next hours pass in focused activity. Claire and Marcus work on the secure transmission, encoding the evidence with encryptions that will delay but not prevent eventual tracing. Jack helps Emma and Grace prepare for potential rapid departure, packing only essentials, reviewing emergency protocols. As midnight approaches, the transmission completes. Claire closes the laptop, turning to the others with grim satisfaction. It's done. Ramirez has everything: Maxwell's testimony, my operational records, the evidence from the hard drive, Jack's statement about Eagle Shield, and Sarah's death. Enough to force an official response, even from those who would prefer to bury it. How long? Marcus asks. Before response hours at most. Before they trace the transmission? She glances at her watch. We should assume we have until dawn. Jack absorbs this timeline, mind already mapping their exit strategy. We'll separate. 3 vehicles, 3 routes. Harder to track, harder to intercept. I'll take Grace, Marcus offers. Head west, create a visible trail for them to follow while you go to ground. Jack nods, grateful for his friend's understanding of what needs to be done. Emma stays with me, and I'll create a 3rd trail, Claire adds, southeast toward Boston. Make of them split their resources 3 ways. The plan forms quickly, building on their collective experience in evasion and misdirection. 3 departures staggered by 30 minutes. 3 destinations, none of them the actual safe location where they will eventually regroup. As they prepare for departure, Emma approaches Claire, holding out her sketchbook with a drawing of the lake house. For you, she says simply, so you know where to find us after. Claire accepts the drawing, her composure slipping momentarily to reveal genuine emotion. It's beautiful, Emma. Thank you. Jack watches this exchange from across the room, feeling something shift within his chest. The barriers he's maintained since learning of Claire's true identity, the professional distance, the suspended judgment, begin to crumble against the simple wisdom of his daughter's acceptance. Marcus departs first, with Grace headlights disappearing down the dirt road toward the highway beyond. 30 minutes later, Claire prepares to leave, her bag packed with the minimal essentials of someone accustomed to rapid relocation. At the door, she turns to Jack. 48 hours. The contact will reach out through the protocol we discussed. Jack nods, then surprises himself by extending his hand. Not a lover's gesture, not quite friendship, but acknowledgement of a bond forged through shared purpose, if not shared history. Claire takes his hand, her grip firm, her eyes holding his with unguarded emotion, for perhaps the first time since he's known her, since he's known the real her. For what it's worth, she says quietly, meeting you and Emma was never part of my calculation. What happened between us? I know, he interrupts gently. The mission became complicated. A small smile touches her lips at his use of her earlier phrasing. More than complicated, it became real. She releases his hand, steps back. Be safe, Jack. I'll find you. As her car disappears into the darkness, Jack turns to Emma, who watches him with quiet assessment. Time for us to go, too, he tells her, shouldering their single bag of essentials. Where are we really going? She asks, perceptive, as always. Jack considers the question not just their immediate destination, but the larger journey they've begun. The path away from grief and isolation towards something yet undefined, but somehow more complete. Forward, Amir, he answers finally. We're going forward. They drive through the night, father and daughter, leaving behind the gatekeeper's limited existence. The road ahead holds uncertainty, danger, the very real possibility of failure. But it also holds the promise of truth, of justice, of a life reclaimed from those who sought to use it for their own purposes. As dawn breaks over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of possibility, Jack glances at Emma sleeping peacefully beside him. For the first time in 3 years, he feels not just the weight of responsibility, but the strength to carry it. Not just the grief of what he's lost, but the determination to protect what remains. The gatekeeper has abandoned his post, stepping into a world more dangerous but also more alive than the one he'd confined himself to. Whatever comes next, pursuit, confrontation, eventual peace, he faces it not as a passive guardian, but as an active participant in his own destiny. The road stretches before them, winding toward a future. Emma has already begun to sketch a lake, a garden, a home rebuilt from honest foundations rather than comfortable lies. Jack drives toward that vision, no longer the invisible man watching life pass by, but the father, the protector, the man awakening to the possibility that even lives built on deception can find their way to truth. Behind them, the past recedes, the gate, the booth, the years of controlled grief. Ahead lies a journey without guarantees except one. They move forward together, eyes open, finally free.